Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a tag video. So this is the 2022 eyeshadow tag. This was created by Annette's Makeup Corner, and as soon as I saw her video, I knew I had to do it. She is a really sweet person. I definitely will have her video and channel linked down below. We've done a collab together. She is really creative, really nice. Really appreciate her as a person in this YouTube space. And I thought this was a really fun tag and I really liked the question. So I also want to do the one that Angelica Nyquist and Samantha March did recently as well. And there's a little bit of overlap, but they're distinct enough. I'm probably going to do both. I'll probably do that one in a day or two and have that video up sometime soon as well. But this is all about eyeshadow, which is my weakness. I love eyeshadow. It's what I have most of in my collection and what most of my budget goes to. So this felt like a perfect video to do. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Colin. I'm a non-binary Latinx scientist and lover of makeup with a soft spot for indie makeup and colorful makeup. And I have new content every week, so I'd really love to have you subscribe. Okay, so there are 10 questions in this tag, and I film with my phone, so I can't hold it and look like most people do in these kind of videos. Some of them I have here with me, some of them I don't, and I'll just try to insert a picture. But I do really like these questions, so some of these feel like it's like a specific palette, but I will definitely probably mention multiple because it's hard to choose. And if you're curious about makeup or anything, it'll all be in the description box. This is like the third video I'm filming today, so this outfit and makeup are in multiple videos now. But when you have limited time to film, you kind of have to batch film like this. So the first question is going to be the most innovative release of the year. So I thought really hard about this one. Try to think of what was the most innovative thing. I would say I have two answers for this. One is I don't remember the name of it, but I'll insert a picture here, and it was the Ace Beauté game palette. So it was like, you got the palette and you got a board game, or not a board game, but you got like cards in a game, and it made a game out of it. So you would like pick a card and it would help you would plan your shit around the game. I didn't get it. I haven't tried Ace Beauté, although I do want a couple of their palettes. Especially the ones that launched Cyber Monday. Those look beautiful. But I think having it as a game and a whole thing beyond just the eyeshadow was a really inventive, interesting way to do it, because I feel like basically every color has been done at some point. So that was a really inventive a way to have an eyeshadow palette. So I definitely want to mention that, even though I didn't buy it myself. The other thing that I thought of is based on concept, formula, all of that, and that had to go to the Isamaya Industrial palette. I think this was a really innovative palette, really beautiful launch. Not loved by everybody, but that tends to happen with things like that. But one of the best palettes of the year, really beautiful murky tones and grungy tones, but I think what makes it innovative is it's a lot of different formulas. So there's some putty shadows, which I've never used. I've used cream to powder, but I've never used one that feels like a putty like this. You've got 3 of those wet effect kind of shadows that are no base, just sparkle of a different color. So you've got a blue, a champagne, and a green. You've got some really interesting foiled shades that like smooth out nicely. And then the rest of the shadows, you've got a couple normal shimmers and one that blends out nicely as a one and done. But the rest are like a semi-sheer base. So you do see semi-sheer bases periodically. I haven't used any quite like this. Like there's some opacity, but you can build them, you can layer them. This was designed to like layer and melt together, and you can layer like 6 shadows together and it not look chaotic or too much. Like they just all work perfectly. And the fact that it's an all shimmer palette, well, except for those putty shadows, which they dry matte. I just think like the mix of tones, the mix of formulas, the fact that it's like 12 shadows and 10 different formulas is a really innovative first launch from a brand, so definitely had to mention this one. Okay, so the next question number 2, is the palette that surprised you the most. And I had a few thoughts for this one, but the one that I think came to me, like, feels like the biggest surprise is the Cosmic Brushes Serenity palette. So this was really, really hyped. A few people got it in PR and it kept selling out. I think it's still sold out, like it just keeps getting sold out. And it's only a $20 palette from an indie brand in the UK. And a lot of $20 palettes, even indie palettes, like, they're good, but they're not like amazing. Like the last time I got a UK, like a $20 palette from the UK was a Beauty Bay palette, and it was like, this is fine, really, really hyped. Everybody's obsessed with it. But I was just kind of like, it's okay. It's good for the money, but not amazing. This isn't just good for the money. This is amazing and cheap. It's a beautiful color story. And I just dropped the sleeve thing. It's a beautiful color story, really, really well done. I think the outside and the inside match each other perfectly, which doesn't happen very often. And it's just really great mattes. They blend beautifully, they layer beautifully, they build nicely, the shimmers are all pretty. I just did a if I could only keep 10 palettes thing, and this almost was in there. Like this was like honorable mention. I didn't actually say that, but in my mind it is. I think this was just beautifully done. Their first palette, they had a palette before this that like was warm neutrally looks, and it looks pretty, but I'm really excited to see what they do next, because I think this was $20, 20 pounds, and then with shipping, I think it came up to about $28, $30 with shipping, which is not that much more or about the same price as a mediocre ColourPop palette, so, or a BH Cosmetics palette, and this is far, far superior. It really shocked me how great this is. So this had to be the one that surprised me the most. Okay, so the next question is a palette you regret buying, and this was one of the easiest ones to answer, and it is the Clionadh Dragonfruit palette. I've talked about this on my channel multiple times. I part of me doesn't regret it, because I think if I hadn't bought it, I would still want it, but I just regret it. It's pretty, but it's not special. The shadows are nice, but not really worth the money. This was like 60 something dollars plus like $15, like it was like $70 with shipping. Really expensive shipping from Canada. Expensive palette in the first place, and it was supposed to be 2 multichromes, 2 duochromes, some satins, some metallics, all shimmer in some form. But the satins are fine. They are a nice satin. They're not shades that I really want in a satin. And like this hot pink and this green. And the metallics in here, like this one and this one and this, they're not metallics. They're satins. So it's just a bunch of satins, which I like satins, but not really in these colors and not what I expected. The multichromes, like Dragantini, it's kind of a duochrome, not a multichrome. The other one I seem to zero shift in. The duochromes have no shift. Like one has like some sparkle of another color, but not a shift. I wouldn't call it a duochrome. So the duochromes are just kind of a nice metallic. It's just not worth the money, and not worth, like this was so hyped. Everybody who got it in PR was like, this is amazing. And then I got it, and a couple of my friends got it, and we were all disappointed in it. So also the packaging is cheap. Mine is cracking here and here. A bunch of other people's, it's broken. Mine squeaks in the most annoying way. And almost everybody's does. The shades are magnetic, so you can pop them out, but they're also like loose, so they rattle. It's just, and like, especially because they talked about this so much for so long beforehand and hyped it up so much and said it was like years in the making, and then I got it and I was like, really? Like the palette that I got right after from Sugar Drizzle that was like $30 was far more impactful. The formula didn't last on the eyes, but other ones do. I'd rather have spent this money on Terra Moon shadows or something. Those are special, these aren't. So I do regret that. So question 4 is best collaboration. So this one, I couldn't really narrow down to one. So I picked 4 palettes that were collaborations that I really, really enjoy this year. The first one is going to be the Hallow Bean palette from Shroud Cosmetics and Batty Bean. I think this is maybe even better than their first palette. It's such a good color story, such a good palette. Maybe a little challenging for some people. I will point that out, that it's not the easiest, but the shades in this are beautiful. Black Flame is one of the best multi-chromes I have. I really love this really dark green here that looks almost black. I think this was a really well done sequel to their first palette, the It's Frickin' Bats palette. I love this palette. The second collaboration I want to mention is the Trixie Cosmetics Juno Birch palette. Really love this palette. I love Trixie Cosmetics eyeshadows in general. I have most of them. And the next video I wanted to film today is actually a ranking of them. But this is the first one they've done that's a true collaboration with another person. And I think Juno did a really great job with this. It's basically an all matte palette. So this shade here is a shimmer, but it's like more of a highlighter, like inner corner or face highlight, not really a lid shade, but Juno doesn't really wear those, so that makes sense. If you don't know, Trixie Cosmetics is Trixie Mattel, the drag queen from RuPaul's Drag Race. It's her brand, and everything's made in the United States. They're based out of LA. Juno Birch is a British drag queen who does blue alien makeup. Looks like a 60s housewife, but alien and blue. And I think they did a really great job on this. So you've got these interesting neutral tones here that are like, this one's kind of a warm brown, and this one's a nice kind of cool darker brown. This is an interesting tone that I don't really have elsewhere. You've got some bluey purple shades here. You've got a white and a black, and then you've got these tones here. This makes a nice blush. Actually, both of those make nice blushes. It's one of those palettes that like you can do an eye look. You can use these on your face for contour or bronzer. It's just a very well done palette. It's eyeshadow and face, it's everything. And I think Juno did a really good job. I love Juno Birch. I saw her right before that came out. I wore my Juno Birch shirt in that video. I bought the whole PR box, so a little biased there. And then the last 2 collaborations I want to mention are the Lethal Cosmetics Teresa is Dead palette and the Angelica Nyquist Odin's Eye palette. Really enjoy these palettes as well. The Lethal, what is it? Teresa's Lethal. I started to mix the name up with last year's. Really love this palette. Some of their best shimmers, really interesting mattes. Even despite not really liking this pink because I don't like those tones, and this brown being too pale for my skin tone, still one of the best palettes out there. Really unique. Love the formula. I love Lethal Cosmetics. I obviously don't know Batty Bean, I don't know Angelica Nyquist, and I don't know Teresa's Dead. Like, I follow them, but we're not like friends or anything, so. But I really love all of these. The Hella palette, this is the 4th palette in the Legendary Diversa set, and I think she did a really great job on this. It's such a unique color story. It's greens, but it's warm greens, which are my favorite kind, because they don't turn blue on me. Emeralds just look like teal on me, and like a lot of more blue-based greens just look blue. I do think it's a really interesting mix of like the greens, a couple like interesting neutrals like this wolf color and decay with these pinks. I don't really like pink eyeshadow that much, but these are nice the couple times I've used them. This soot shade is really great. Really love that. And River is one of my favorite shimmers in my collection. So I think Angelica Nyquist has done 2 collaboration palettes, and I really love both. Club Nebula will always be my favorite though. It's like the perfect palette for me. Question number 5 is worst collaboration, and I don't have any that I think are bad, but I do think a lot of bad ones came out this year, and you can basically say anything Hip Dot did or anything Makeup Revolution did, and a lot of what ColourPop did. I used to like Hip Dot. I have their first 2 palettes. I love those palettes. The formula is great. Color stories are great. I wish they would do more of those nature-inspired themes because those were amazing. I've gotten one newer palette from them and it was fine, but not the same quality, not as good. And most of them just look, I don't like how many they come up with. They seem weird. I think like they have the new ones that are like a Care Bear that's like mold of a Care Bear that you can like rub your finger on and put your eye on, or rub the Care Bear on your eye. I think that's stupid. I'm sorry. If you like them, great. I'm happy for you. I think they're stupid. We can disagree on that. I think I don't like Makeup Revolution in the first place. I've tried a few things. I hated them all. And I've seen like they did that Friends collab last year. I don't know if they did one this year, but they did a lot of stuff like that. It all just looks cheap. A lot of the ColourPop ones are just kind of meh. I feel like we're seeing so many IP collabs, and most of them I don't like. Like, I haven't tried Glamlight, and I know people really love the palettes that they've done with Michaela, and even their collab palettes, people like the formula. But did we need an icy palette? Did we need a Frosted Flakes palette? No. It just doesn't make sense. I understand nostalgia for some things, like if someone came out with a Daria palette, I'd be all over that. But who's nostalgic for Frosted Flakes? Like, it's just a weird thing, and I do not understand it. It's peak capitalism without any real thought or soul behind it, and I don't like it. So question number 6 is best seasonal release, and I have 3 for this. The first one is the Gourmand Girls Duels by the Bunny Spooked palette. I think that was a great palette. I forgot to grab it in my stack of things here. I don't want to pause again, but really great formula, really great like fall/Halloween palette. Really well done. Mattes in that are great, shimmers in that are great. Deserved all of the hype it got. And I am so grateful for Christina. She's a really sweet person, and I'm really glad she sent that to me because it's just so good. I cannot talk about that palette enough. The other 2 are the Odin's Eye Christmas palettes and the Hudson Valley from Nomad. This is one of the best things Nomad has ever done. This was the first thing I thought of because it just speaks to me. It's like the perfect fall palette, and it makes me miss home. I'm not from the Hudson Valley, but I've lived in Connecticut and New York City for most of my adult life. So that general region feels like home, the Northeast. And I think instead of doing the typical like, here's your warm neutral red tones, the color of leaves, they added in like the earthy tones and the moss tones and the rocks and everything. And I just think it's a perfect encapsulation of fall, especially fall in the Northeast, which I miss. So I am very thankful that this was sent to me in PR. I do have a code with Nomad. They're the only company I have a code with. It's just bones. It saves you 10%. But even if they hadn't sent this to me, I would have bought this because I love their palettes, I love their formula, and this is perfect. Like, I don't remember being as excited to open a package as I have for this one. And then the Odin's Eye Christmas palettes. I have the Christmas Eve one here because it's my preferred of the 2, but I think these were really beautiful, really well done. I don't love that brands do Christmas palettes every year because we ignore Hanukkah, we ignore all of the other winter holidays and just focus on Christmas. And sometimes they can get a little too much, but I think this was beautifully done. This one actually feels more like a Hanukkah, New Year's Eve palette than it does a Christmas palette because it's blue, silver, gold, these cool tones, some interesting like bronze and olivey shades. It's just more, it's not just red and green. The other one's red and green and a nice take on red and green, but I feel like so many brands have done that, and I really wish brands would release something other than Christmas palettes. and pink and red palettes for Valentine's Day, because there's other holidays and not everyone celebrates Christmas. So please be more inclusive and do other holidays. So the next question is number 7 is a palette that is still on your mind. So if I would have filmed this video a couple months ago, it would have been the Byredo Flora Kalahari palette. That came out at end of February, early March, and I wanted it so much. I kept thinking about it all spring, all summer, and then the reason it's not that palette is because at the end of September for my birthday, we went down to LA to spend some time with friends, and one of them lives by a Byredo store, and they had a couple in stock, and I touched it, fell in love, and bought it immediately. So I did get that one. And it is just as good as I wanted. So that would have been my answer. But I would say now it's the Nearly Natural palette from Glaminatrix. So I have their Nocturnal palette, and I have some multi-chromes from them, and I love their formulas. The other palette would probably be the You Beauty palette, which they are discontinuing, and I really, really want it. But with shipping and stuff, it's like $60, $70, and I just, not on my budget right now, especially not working at the moment. So hard to splurge on that, but I really, really want that, and I think about those two palettes a lot. I really like the Glaminatrix formula. I'm very jealous of the people who get PR from them, because the Nearly Natural just looks like the perfect neutral palette. It's got peachy tones and green, and the shimmers look beautiful, and then the You Beauty palette is just so special and so pretty. I've wanted it since it launched. So those are the two palettes that I keep thinking about, or that are still on my mind. So the next question is, number 8, is what are you hoping to see next year? And I think my biggest hope for next year and what I want to see from brands is more thoughtful, curated releases and less throwing everything out there. Like I already ranted a little bit about like some of the IP collaborations. I would like to see ColourPop and some of those brands not release something every week or twice in 1 week. I don't think that's going to happen. That's their entire business model, and part of why I don't buy from them anymore. I mean, that's always been their business model, but after a while, you're like, the quality's not worth it. I don't like the way their business practices. But I feel like Nomad does a handful of palettes a year. They're really well thought out. There's a lot of love and thought and intention put in them. They're not just like, here's a few shades, here's a generic name and like block packaging, throw it out. I'm sick of that. I think most people are. I want to see more intention and less garbage being released. It's going to be 2023. Most formulas are fine. There aren't really any horrible things. Like sometimes ColourPop's pretty horrible, but most of the time palettes and eyeshadows are like fine to great. So we just need to like slow down and be more intentional. I mean, that's my thoughts on most things in general, but I would really like to see that. I don't think I will, but it's what I would like. And question number 9 is what you don't want to see next year, and it kind of goes with that, and is that I don't want to see all of these stupid IP collabs. Some of them, sure, I understand. Like Clueless, HipDot did a Clueless palette. That makes sense. It's one of my favorite movies. I didn't buy it because I didn't really like it. But, you know, if someone did a Daria palette, I would probably buy that, depending on the colors. There's some IP things that I definitely have nostalgia for, but I feel like we're seeing so much, like random gums and cereals and Coca-Cola. Like, who needs a Coca-Cola palette? Like, Coca-Cola makes billions of dollars. Like, they don't need to get on the money-grabbing makeup thing. Like, I want to see less makeup that is obvious money grabs. I want to see more thoughtful, intentional things, and that is, so those two go together. I'm sick of the money grabbing, like throwing shit out there, or weird collabs coming out of left field that, like, who asked for it? Who wants a Coca-Cola palette? If you do, cool, but like, why? Why do you want a Frosted Flakes palette? Like, why? Do you really love that cereal that much? Is that really necessary? And then question, so now I've ranted a bit. Question number 10, the last question, is what are your personal goals for 2023? What would you like to improve on next year? And my personal goals involve growing my channel. I have grown a lot. I mean, I've had this channel for less than a year and a half. I'm already at almost 1,500 subscribers. And I am so thankful for all of that. Never thought that would happen. I just want to keep growing. I'd like to get to a point where I make a little bit of money, but it would be nice if I made enough to cover the stuff that I'm reviewing. But also, I just want to grow more. I want to learn more. I want to just have more fun with this. And I want to actually set time aside to do more creative, fun looks. I do them sometimes. I don't always take pictures because I don't always like the way they look, because I don't have time to do, you know, like a big full face of something that takes an hour or two very often. And I would like to have that time set aside to do that more often, because I really do I like doing no makeup looks. I like doing colorful, creative, fun eyeshadow looks, but I want to do more. I want to learn more makeup things. So those are my goals for next year, is grow the channel more, keep learning and doing more, but also like expand, allow myself to do more creative things more often, and really expand that side of my makeup skills. So that is the tag. Those are the 10 questions. Thank you so much to Annette for coming up with this and curating these questions and making her video, because it really inspired me to. I'd love, especially if you don't have a channel, I'd love to hear your answers to these questions. So I'll have the questions in the description box if you want to do the video as well, or if you want to answer them in the comments. I'd love to hear it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.